right, we're here at the GameSalute.com booth at Gen Con 2010. I'm Dan, and we're talking with Richard Launius. He is our featured guest of honor today at this table, and he is the designer of Arkham Horror, of a couple other games that I'm not familiar with yet, but this latest awesome game is Defenders of the Realm, and it is published by Eagle Games. And from Eagle Games, we have Keith Blume. What's your title at Eagle Games?
Apparently not guest of honor for the day.
He's the designer of Arkham.
I see. Managing director of Eagle.
He's our managing director of honor at this table right here, right now. And so Richard's going to give us a little overview of Defenders. So if people aren't familiar with this, they can get an idea of that. And this just came out, so it should be in your stores now or arriving there shortly. It's a great. I've played it. I've had a lot of fun with it. So we'll turn it over to you. Here you go.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, first of all, Defenders of the Realm is a fantasy. It's a fantasy board game, and it's a cooperative board game where all players will be playing on the same side, trying to beat the board in which 4 generals, the undead general, the demon general, the dragon general, and the orc general, are marching their armies toward Monarch City. And the game can be won only one way, by defeating all 4 of the generals. However, it can be lost a number of different ways. You can lose the game if at any point 4 or 5 minions move into Monarch City. You would lose the game. Additionally, if any one of the 4 generals moves into Monarch City, you'd lose the game. We have what's called taint crystals, which when 3 demons are on a location, or a 4th of any other minion would be placed on a location, would cause the land to become so destroyed that humans couldn't live there anymore, would be placed on the board. If all 12 of these crystals are on the board at any one time, you also lose the game. So there's a number of different ways to lose the game, and the last one would be if I'm asked to put new minions on the board and I don't have enough minions to place on the board, I'd lose the game there also.
So we actually had a question on that, which you can answer being the designer. I'll just lean into the mic there. There are certain cards that use the minion counters as tokens as counters. Do those count towards being removed from the pool or not?
If you can use those, for example, let's say I had 3 orcs on a card where I'm trying to kill 6 orcs, and I've got to place 4 orcs on the board and I've only got 3, okay, or only got 1, or whatever the case is. I can choose to give up my quest to release those orcs back to the board, but the quest is now a failure.
I see.
I draw a new quest and that quest goes away. I've sacrificed for the greater good of the kingdom, but once again, my personal quest went away for us to survive. However, if I didn't do it, we'd all lose the game, so quest wouldn't mean a whole heck of a lot. And that does point out a very important factor. You win or lose as a group. It's a cooperative game. So if you fail to defeat the generals, you lose collectively. How many quests you had, whether or not you've slayed dragons or slayed the generals, really is unimportant. However, if you do win the game as a group, there is recognition for an overall King's Champion that's passed on. And it's a secondary recognition of the person who's provided the most protection to the kingdom, and that is by completing the most quests and being the combination of quests and slaying generals. Whoever has the highest mounts declared the overall champion. The others are all still winners, but they're the champion of the realm by the king.
They're just the losers of the winners.
There you go.
So you mentioned quest cards. You have quests that you complete. Everybody has one at a time, and you just get a new one whenever it replaces, right?
That's correct. So everyone will start with a basic quest, and the quest will tell you to go do something. It might be to go, as you mentioned earlier, scout a general, which is go spend a turn where the general is located, spend 1 action there, you automatically scout him, so you catch the reward. In that case, it would be go through the hero deck and draw a card till it matches the color of the general that you just scouted. And these haven't been shuffled, so they're all red right now. But the bottom line is you would be able to get a reward, in some cases immediately, in other cases some rewards are greater and they carry on in the game, you can use them later. Some rewards are ongoing, the majority of rewards are one-time use. Let me explain a little bit about the play of the game. Every player will start with a hero, and there are 8 heroes provided in the game, a 9th if you happen to have the Barbarian expansion. And each hero has, in most cases, 3 skills of varying degrees. They match their type of character. For example, the rogue. The rogue has the ability to, for example, hide in the shadows so they don't take damage from enemy troops if they end their turn with them. The rogue has a thievery ability, which allows them, when they're on a treasure chest location at the end of their turn, to draw an extra hero card. And they also have the crafty skill, which when they are in inns, one of the few ways you can get cards outside of normal play at the end of your turn where you get cards is to go to an inn and take a rumors action in which you call a color of card and you flip over 2 cards, and if it matches that color or is a special card, you get to add it to your hand. The rogue happens to be able to do 5 of those. But each of the heroes has some very, very unique special abilities. For example, and I'll just touch on some of them, the sorceress, she can change shapes and look like any of the minions, and when she's in those shapes, she can't come into Monarch City or go into any of the inns, but she gains a bonus in combat when she first enters those squares. The ranger has the ability to use archery to set in one location and shoot off into surrounding areas to take down troops. The cleric has a number of cool abilities. Not only does she have a bonus against demons and undead, she can heal the land, which is very important, remove these taint crystals. She can also turn undead, so if she ends her turn with the undead, she can force them to leave her space and go to another location. The dwarf has armor, which is extremely valuable. They're a dragon slayer, which allows them to re-roll when they're fighting the dragon kin or they're fighting one of the dragons, which is very, very powerful. And they have mountain lore, which when they're in a red location at the end of their turn gives them an extra hero card. The Eagle Rider, probably one of the more popular favorites among the players because he flies on an eagle. He doesn't need any movement cards to help him. He can simply move 4 spaces every turn. He can get a fresh mount at times. He's limited in his actions because he only has 4, but he can really do a lot with them. And he also has an attack style. He can either stay high in the sky and stay safe from injury from the minions below him, or he can dive down to where he can re-roll all of his dice, if he chooses to. The Paladin, who's one of my personal favorites just because I like Paladins, he has a noble steed, so he can always ride 2 spaces as if he had a horse. He's got bravery, so he's not afraid of the undead, and he's got armor, so he can avoid 1 wound. The Wizard, who time and time again I hear from people who play it the first time always tell me the Wizard's the most powerful until they play some of the other characters, and then they come back and say, no, it's the Eagle Rider. No, it's always one other. But the Wizard's very powerful. He can teleport 1 time each turn to any location on the board, so that can make him move pretty fast. He can also discard hero cards that match the color of the minions and throw fireballs and incinerate the entire group with a roll of 2 or better. And he has one of his more popular skills is on his turn only, when he draws his Darkness Spreads card, and I'll talk about that in a minute at the end, he can, if he doesn't like the card that he gets, he can discard it and draw another one.
I'm going to free up your hand there so you can show things a little better. And this is the promotional figure, the Barbarian. You get the card and there's a separate figure. And this is, it was a pre-order promotion, so if you pre-ordered, you could get this with it for free, and it's like $5 if you didn't get it already, right?
And it's a very powerful character because she has battle rage, which means she can just modify her dice rolls by spending extra actions to attack with. But she also she's a famed warrior, which is my personal favorite. So if she goes into an area and she kills 2 minions in a single battle, everywhere around her 1 minion runs away because they've heard she's in the area, which is just fun to do. So she's always a fun one to play, and then she gets some local support from certain locations. And
this is notable for, if you notice all the art here, it's done by Larry Elmore, and this is kind of a very archetypal Larry Elmore character. So that's why that's the promo, I assume.
Bushy-haired, we liked her a lot. Yeah. I remembered her from Days Gone By, so we were excited to bring her into the fold.
And so Larry Elmore did all the art for this, and you were going to talk about the general play a little more about how you move and all that.
I'm going to talk about that, but one thing I do want to say, I'm very happy to have Larry Elmore do the artwork. When I did the prototype, I used a lot of Larry Elmore artwork on it, and when the guys from Eagle said, you know what, we're going to go talk to Larry, I'm like, well, don't make him mad about his artwork being in my prototype, okay? I'm really flattered of the artwork he has, and I just want him to know that I'm very impressed with the stuff he does. So I'm very happy that we got Larry Elmore to do the work.
It's great, some fine looking stuff.
Thank you. So basically on a player's turn, they have action tokens equal to the number that's in the bottom right-hand side of their card. So if it was a Barbarian, she would have 5 actions, so she would have these action tokens. So on her turn, she could do a number of different things. And basically, she could, I think the rule book's probably put inside the box, but basically, if she wanted to move, it would cost her an action to move from one space to the next, unless she was, for example, the Eagle Rider who can fly. So that'd be one action. If she wanted to attack these guys, that would be an action. And here's a book that shows all the actions. There's a whole list of actions. There's 4 different movement type of actions at the top, and then there's a number of different skill actions as well as combat actions that appear on the bottom.
And that's an important thing because we looked at this and we were like, wow, that's a lot of things to remember. And they have this little reference on the back and it's inside the book, but it's really not that much to remember. It's basically just like, do you want to move? Do you want to fight? Or do you want to do something else? And then what do you want to do within those subcategories?
That's exactly right. And once players really have played, 1 or 2 turns, it's very easy for them to remember all the aspects of what they have that they can do. The other thing is it's really nice because it's a cooperative game, so there's no real disadvantage of having to spend a ton of time on the rules. You can dive into it and kind of work together through the pieces and really be into the game very, very quickly in most cases if you've read through the rules and have at least a little bit of a general understanding.
Yeah, it plays pretty quick. It's like 90 minutes or so, I would say. Maybe up to 2 hours?
90 to 2 hours. If it goes 90, most of the time you've lost, but...
Well, that's a minute. Thanks. Yeah, I've lost every time.
That would explain why.
I mean, if the generals and their minions are moving quickly and you're really not doing a good job of battling back, they can put you away much faster than 90 minutes. But if you're doing a good job at battling back, it's going to run 90 minutes to 2 hours on the average.
It's a quick 2 hours. We played, and it was just like, oh, yeah, well, you just take your turn. Now you take your turn. You take your turn. It's pretty quick.